this morning as former movie producer Harvey Weinstein, flanked by his attorneys, used a walker while entering a New York courtroom. He faces 5 felony counts there from 2 primary accusers. 4 others will also testify as Weinstein's company attempts to settle millions in civil claims, and more than 80 women on the sidelines say he's a sexual predator. Welcome to the debrief, everybody, here on the Law&Crime Network. The Harvey Weinstein trial has entered courtrooms on the East and the West Coasts. We're here to break down everything that happened in today's New York Judicial Conference, with jury selection happening tomorrow. And there are new charges in Los Angeles. Cameras were not allowed in the New York courtroom, but Law&Crime's Jesse Weber was there. He joins us shortly, along with our Angelica Spanos, who brings us everything which happened outside. And here with me today for analysis are attorneys Gigi Gonzalez in Miami, David Ring in California, and Michael Bryant here in New York. Let's get started with the facts of the case. Weinstein faces this list of 5 charges in New York. Predatory sexual assault is the most serious charge with a possible life sentence. Then there's 1 count of criminal sexual act in the first degree, 1 count of predatory sexual assault, 1 count of rape in the first degree, and finally 1 count of rape in the 3rd degree. That last charge is for an alleged victim who could not legally give consent to sexual activity for a reason other than being underage. That criminal case is based in New York on claims from 2 primary accusers. Former Weinstein Company production assistant Mimi Halle says Weinstein forced oral sex upon her in 2006 in his New York apartment. She says she went there to maintain a business relationship with Weinstein despite previous unwanted advances. An unknown accuser, whose name is not in the court record, says Weinstein raped her in a hotel room in 2013. The prosecutor handling the New York case is Jonah Luzzi. She's been with the New York County District Attorney's Office for more than 31 years. She prosecuted rap artist Jay-Z, among other high-profile defendants. 3 lawyers are on the defense team. Attorney Donna Rotono told the Chicago Sun-Times that the problem with the Me Too movement was that it rose out of allegations and not facts or evidence. She told Chicago Magazine that her gender allows her to, quote, get away with a lot more in a courtroom cross-examining a female because a male attorney would look like a bully for using, again to quote, the same venom that I do. And on the eve of this criminal trial in New York, prosecutors on the West Coast announced 4 brand new charges against Weinstein.
I'm here today to announce that my office has charged Harvey Weinstein with sexually assaulting 2 women in Los Angeles County. We believe the evidence will show that the defendant used his power and influence to gain access to his victims and then committed violent crimes against them. In the complaint we filed earlier today, we allege that the first sexual assault took place on February 18, 2013, in a Los Angeles hotel room. For those crimes, defendant Weinstein is charged with 1 felony count each of forcible rape, forcible oral copulation, and sexual penetration by use of force. He also faces 1 felony count of sexual battery by restraint of another woman. We allege the second assault took place the next evening in a hotel suite in Beverly Hills.
Those accusations follow this morning's New York hearing, which is where Law&Crime's Jesse Weber was inside the courthouse.
What an incredible first day we had in the Harvey Weinstein trial, and the trial really hasn't even officially began yet. As Harvey Weinstein came into the courtroom, again, he appeared very frail coming off of that back surgery. The entire room went quiet. Now, he was first seated in the row right in front of me, so I was right behind him. And this was interesting. He stayed in that row until the judge came in. Then he got up and went to the defense's table. He had an exchange of words with his attorney, Donna Rotono. She put her arm on his shoulder. They exchanged a few laughs, and then it was down to business. Now, today was a lot of back and forth between both sides on a number of motions. The defense lost their first motion, a discovery motion, in order to get some additional information from the state. They also lost a bid to have the jury sequestered. The judge said no to that. In fact, didn't even really want to hear the defense's argument. Then we also learned that the state accused the defense of making, quote, abominable hateful comments to the media, basically suggesting that they are portraying these witnesses, potentially these women who are coming forward, in really, really degrading light, targeting Donna Rotuno. In fact, the judge made a comical moan and said, "Ms. Rotuno, I'm assuming this is about you. What did you do?" Now, she defended herself. She said she was merely trying to defend her client, and she denied what the state said to her. The state actually accused the defense of taking material from sealed documents and telling that to the media. She said, "That is not the case. I am merely answering the media's questions. They have their own access to materials." It got heated at times. It was emotionally charged at times. And Harvey Weinstein, who's a man who's always been in control of his life and his industry, actually, you can see him trying to direct his defense at one point. There was an issue about where is he going to be during the course of this trial? Will he be confined to New York? Well, when that issue came up, he got vocal. He actually said no, 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 with the idea that he wouldn't be able to stay in Connecticut, let alone on the weekends, let alone on the weekday. It's been a privilege to be in that courtroom, and I can't wait to see what happens next. This is Jesse Weber reporting from Law&Crime.
We'll hear from the attorneys in the case in just a moment, but first let's go to Law&Crime's Angelica Spanos, who was outside the courthouse for us in New York this morning.
And I'm coming to you outside of New York Supreme Court, whereas everything was unfolding inside with Harvey Weinstein, the scene outside was just as tense. That's because we had dozens of women here in solidarity rallying for victims of sexual assault and for women to show the strength that they have here in numbers behind these women who have anything to do with Harvey Weinstein. Now, in that crowd, we saw actresses taking the mic and speaking out against Harvey Weinstein. Some of those included Rose McGowan and Rosanna Arquette, also Louise Godbold. McGowan was one of the women who came out accusing Weinstein of sexual assault early on. She detailed her story about an alleged rape in a memoir. She was answering questions from journalists, and the main message today is to get across that survivors will never give up. They said that this trial means a lot to so many people, but the most to the survivors who have had the courage to testify. We also heard that they want predators to be held accountable and say that speaking up can bring about real change here. Now, in total, more than 80 women have alleged sexual misconduct accusations against Harvey Weinstein. Today, after court, we heard the accusers in this New York trial's attorneys speak out. Gloria Allred said that this is something that she's been doing for years. Before the Me Too hashtag came out, she was standing up for women. The attorney of the other accuser, the unnamed accuser, also said that this trial will be huge because it will set the tone and give us an idea of the pulse of the whole country right now in relation to the climate with the Me Too movement. As you'll recall, Harvey Weinstein's allegations sparked that movement many years ago. So today, the mood here very tense and very empowering, as many of the women that were outside this courthouse were here, not because they are directly connected to Harvey Weinstein or the accusers, but just to show their solidarity. I'm Angelica Spanos in Manhattan. Back to you.
Actress Rose McGowan, of course, is among Weinstein's most vocal accusers. She and many others spoke near the courthouse.
Today, Lady Justice is staring down a super predator. You brought this upon yourself by hurting so many. You have only yourself to blame. You thought you could terrorize me and others into silence. You were wrong. We rose from your ashes. We rise together. That we've come to this moment of justice is staggering. The trial means so much to so many, but it will mean the most to the brave women testifying and to all of us silence breakers. I thank those testifying for standing, not just for themselves, but for all of us who will never have even one day in court. Know this: we are free, we are beautiful, we are strong, and you will never take that from us. Most importantly, know that the silence breakers will never give up. Survivors will never give up.
And many other accusers spoke out against Weinstein at this morning's rally.
We used to be shamed into silence, and now that we've spoken out and made it a cultural norm, the Me Too movement is a reckoning to not have to tolerate abuses in the workforce. And that's what this is about, is not having to be sexually taken advantage of just to get ahead.
This is beyond retribution, I think, for us. This is about cultural change, and it's something that I hope the next generation doesn't have to deal with. And if they do have to deal with it, I hope they'll at least speak up about it and feel comfortable. That's what I hope from, today forward. And I think just having you here, listening to us, really helps with the change.
We hope that this is really a cultural change here, that people are just fed up with this type of, abuse of power, really. He wants to be known for all he's done for women. I mean, if I understand the question correctly, 30 years of prolific predatory sexual harassment and abuse should be forgiven because he greenlit Kill Bill 2. I mean, it's a ridiculous argument. And I don't think anyone's buying it, hopefully not the jury. Those journalists who put their jobs on the line, Ronan Farrow, who had to leave NBC because they wouldn't do the story. I mean, those are brave people who really have a huge, we're just so grateful to them for what they've done to get the story out. Because once you get it out there, once the truth is out there, well, then everybody's got to cover it, don't they? So that's really why this story made headlines, because of really brave journalists who knew they had a story, who wouldn't listen to their superiors who told them to kill it.
Let's go now to our panel of attorneys watching along with me this evening. David Ring, you practice in California, so walk us through how these new Los Angeles charges are going to complicate everything. Does Weinstein need to be brought to California for arraignment, and when?
Well, typically Weinstein would have to come to Los Angeles to be arraigned in person, but I'm suspecting that the LA District Attorney's Office has worked out some arrangement with the court and with Weinstein's defense team to delay that until the criminal case is over, or at least until there's a break where he could come to LA and be arraigned.
And David, what did you make of the timing of these charges? I don't get the sense that these charges came down today by accident.
Well, I don't think anyone really thinks that, but we can all speculate as to why the LA DA brought those charges today. And, I think the answer might be obvious, but they did, and we're all talking about it. And it doesn't detract at all from the charges in Los Angeles. They're incredibly serious. He's charged with rape, and he did, in fact, rape my client.
Gigi Gonzalez, the judge ruled that he would not sequester the jury. Is that a good ruling given the hundreds of reporters swarming around the courthouse and everyone talking about the case?
I'm not sure that's a good ruling. When you sequester a jury, it's because you don't want the jurors to get any wind of the case from the media. And this is the type of case that's being broadcasted all over the world. So if you're not going to sequester a jury for this case, then what case are you going to sequester a jury for? So in that case, I think the judge, made a difficult ruling, but ultimately we got to play by those cards.
Michael Bryant here in New York. The judge also ruled that the NYPD detective who was pulled off the case cannot be called to testify. The defense said it wasn't a blanket ban, however. So is the detective really relevant, given that the charge related to the third original criminal accuser was indeed dropped?
I think it makes sense that he would be removed as a traditional fact witness, but he might be called if there's some impeachment issue that comes along. So he isn't being foreclosed entirely, but any use is going to be limited, and I think that is appropriate.
Exactly. David, I'll go back to you. You were talking about your client being one of the accusers of Harvey Weinstein there on the West Coast. Is this decision to file charges there certainly a relief to your client, I'm guessing?
I mean, look, it's been 2 long years for her. She reported this way back in late 2017 when the whole Me Too movement broke. And so it's been a roller coaster ride because it wasn't clear that the LA authorities were actually going to pursue this all the way. And so today is very gratifying to her. She's very, very nervous about what's to come because she knows that Weinstein and his team are going to scrutinize her, and I'm sure they already have.
Oh, certainly, certainly. Well, still ahead tonight here on The Debrief, we're going to go back to the Harvey Weinstein hearing for reaction and some fireworks from the attorneys, plus an update on the state of Florida's attempts to keep a criminal case alive against the owner of an NFL team. That is after the break. Florida prosecutors are attempting to keep the criminal case against New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft moving forward. The Florida Attorney General and the Solicitor General are appealing a judge's decision to throw undercover police video out of court. Detectives say the video shows Kraft engaging in a sex act for pay at a massage parlor. A judge ruled police recorded the images in violation of Kraft's constitutional rights to privacy. With no video, there's no case. Kraft had been charged with 2 counts of first-degree misdemeanor solicitation. And now back to the Harvey Weinstein case. Weinstein's defense attorneys fired back outside the courtroom at an attempt for a gag order by prosecutors, which went nowhere, and at prosecutors calling Weinstein a predator.
Here we are looking at a circumstance where she stands up in front of a court and calls my client a predator. Mr. Weinstein, again, has a right to a fair trial. I think she believes he's convicted already. That's not how this works. So we are here hoping to pick and find a fair jury, and we believe that that's going to be possible. And we're going to continue to press on and remind everyone that in this great country, you are innocent until proven guilty, and no evidence has yet been presented to a court or a jury or trier of any fact, and that is why we are here to start this trial.
We said off the top of the broadcast, defense attorney Donna Rotuno has told reporters in Chicago that she brings a different dynamic to the courtroom because of her gender. We asked her to explain those comments, and others asked her to respond to accusations by the prosecution that her defense of Weinstein is, in the prosecutor's words, abominable.
You being abominable?
I'm never abominable. You know, I've commented on this over and over and over again. It isn't about getting away with anything. It's about the fact that these lawyers standing with me are just as competent and skilled to ask the same questions that I ask. As a woman, the effect on the listener is different. And when a woman has a conversation with a woman and questions a woman, the listener views it in a different way.
Another of Weinstein's attorneys this morning complained about the timing of the Los Angeles case. Now, this was just hours before California prosecutors officially announced their charges.
We don't know what's going to happen. We're hoping not, for sure. I think if that happened, it would be pretty obvious as to why the timing would be very suspect. Mr. Weinstein's certainly looking forward to getting this case out of the way. We have no control over what happens in Los Angeles or anywhere else.
Attorney Doug Wigdor represents one of the women who is a witness against Weinstein and who is expected to testify. He also represents the unnamed witness Weinstein is charged with raping.
I represent a Jane Doe. She will be identified by her name later on during this trial. She was raped in 2005 here in New York at Harvey Weinstein's apartment. And there will be more details about her, and I will address you about that. She will not be making any statements or doing any interviews during the course of this trial. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention one other thing, which is, considering that I represent 2 other women with civil claims, I should note that my client here, who's testifying in the criminal trial, has no civil claim. Her claims are barred by statute of limitations. She's not doing this for the money. She's doing this to hold Harvey Weinstein accountable for his actions and to help the victims in this case and the prosecution in this case. That is her only motivation.
Attorney Gloria Allred represents Mimi Halle, who was a production assistant for the Weinstein Company. Weinstein is criminally charged with forcing himself on her in 2006.
The best outcome will be not only a fair trial for Mr. Weinstein, but a fair trial for any witness who testifies, because often witnesses do not feel that they're being treated fairly, that the defense is being treated fairly, the accused, but not the witnesses for the prosecution. So accountability is what this is all about, that Mr. Weinstein finally has to confront in court the witnesses against him and the evidence against him, in addition to the testimony of the witnesses, and that women are being very brave. And I'm just so proud of them for that.
Let's jump back in with our panelists now. David Ring is in California. David, I got to ask you, the word abominable coming up with reference to the defense. Your client has a vested interest in this case. Do you think that was the right word for prosecutors to use when referring to the defense?
No, come on, let's take the high road. You know, the lawyers are doing their job. Ms. Fortuno is paid handsomely to put on the best defense for Weinstein, and that's what she's going to do. So I think name calling, especially lawyer to lawyer, really serves no purpose. Let's put the evidence on the courtroom and let's gain a fair conviction the right way.
Oh, exactly. I agree with you. That professionalism mandate that attorneys are supposed to follow should be at play absolutely everywhere. I hope we all agree on that. Here's my big question. Let's jump in. Gigi Gonzalez. Does this trial turn into a referendum on the Me Too movement? Do you bring it up in jury selection? Do you bring it up in opening statements, or do you not bring it up at all?
I think you have to bring it up. You know, the Me Too movement stemmed from this case. I don't think that it should be the focal point, but definitely during jury selection, you want to know whether these jurors have been positively or negatively impacted by the Me Too movement. And it's important to know that so that you're able to pick a fair and impartial jury in this case.
Michael Bryant, how far do you take it? I mean, if you're the prosecution, do you try to turn this case in that courtroom into a send the message trial for the Me Too movement? Or do you not go there for fear that the case could be flipped?
Yeah, I mean, it's a line you've got to walk. There's no doubt about it. I think the Me Too movement is so pervasive and so well known by everybody that maybe you don't have to beat that drum. You know, everybody knows what it's all about, and that's why we're in this trial. Now, I stay away from it a little bit and focus on the facts of this case.
Here's my next question. David Ring, I'll ask you this one. If you're the defense, do you bring up the Me Too movement? Because the defense has brought it up in media interviews. Does the defense turn around and say Me Too is not the burden of proof and to reel the case back into guilty beyond a reasonable doubt? And if reasonable doubt exists, it has to be not guilty.
Absolutely, they do that. And I think they'll start doing that right away in jury selection. They're going to ask about Me Too and what people think about it. They're going to be looking for jurors who say, I think the Me Too movement has gone too far. And that's their juror. That's who they want. And of course, they're going to try to turn this trial into a much bigger thing than just the two key women who he is criminally charged with. They're going to turn this into they're going to try to portray it as an unfair witch hunt.
Oh, certainly, certainly. And of course, jury selection in this case beginning tomorrow in New York. Our analysts, our reporters will be ready for it. Law&Crime will be there, of course, to bring you all of the developments. Thanks so much to our panelists tonight here on the Debrief. We will be back here live with updates starting at 9 o'clock in the morning. And of course, back here on the Daily Debrief, recapping everything at 5 p.m. We'll see you then.